Nigerian National Accreditation System, you'd agree with me that most of what he said, is not easy to come by, but very, very important for moving products forward. And I just hope that, the states are also gaining in terms of the action points, because honestly, these are the engineers that will take the policy that has been formed under the AfCFTA into action. They're very important agencies, and everything that has been shared here is very, very, very important. I just would like to recognize the presence of Mr. Alozie Uwechi, the HOD, Aquatic Resources Quarantine, representing the Nigeria Agricultural Quarantine Service. Welcome very much, sir. I know you had a presentation, but because of time, we would definitely open the floor for questions and maybe a few words from you. So I'll just open the floor for questions. I know that, oh wow, you're in high demand. These are the actors of AfCFTA. So do I have to, okay, you have a mic?
I think the export initiative, and we have actually commenced with people for export. And one of the things that we're having as a problem with all our entrepreneurs is, prior to this, we understood that NAFDAC handles drug and food. So this is not a NAFDAC problem. She's very correct in saying that they have digitalized their system. It's true.
So there's a part you can do online until you now come for physical inspection, because that can be done online. But every entrepreneur that has done the NAFDAC for food and drugs still has to pay some for food and drugs. Why is this the case? We are doing it live every day, and I taught them something different, and the ground is showing them something different. So NAFDAC
and son needs to have a conversation, because we're supposed to be talking about ease of doing business. This is why I really wanted her to know. Secondly, for those who need, they need to talk to NAC-AfCFTA, that's the quarantine service. Is there no way, since NAFDAC still deals with food, can't we pay to NAFDAC and NAFDAC can remit to NAC-AfCFTA? And when they are going for, when you know what the information is, that this is for meats and the rest, NAFDAC can inform NAC-AfCFTA and they can go together to see the person. Instead of you, one individual, you're dealing with now SON, NAFDAC, and quarantine. There is no ease of doing business in that. So that is number one. Number two, still on NAFDAC, since I need a lot on NAFDAC, we are engaging IPAN, which is the Institute of Public Analysis and Analysts of Nigeria, in preparation for NAFDAC coming. So IPAN can do what NAFDAC is doing, but NAFDAC has to do the certification. So what do we ask IPAN to do? I'm asking that there should be a more cohesive relationship between this private sector. We enjoy IPAN more than NAFDAC. I work with civil servants, I'm a public servant, and sometimes the civil servants drag their feet, but the IPAN people do not. And sometimes the civil servants may not be that articulate. I may know more than the person they brought to do some things, because the people you have in the federal may be more articulate than some of the people we have at state. And in Delta State, we've also engaged the local government. So after we did the AfCFTA at state level, we are drilling it down to local government level. We've already started doing that. So what does IPAN do for us? They help us check things like barcodes, product label, product analysis, everything. After doing that, and we pay them for that, then we know that it is shorter for NAFDAC. Even then, NAFDAC has never known them to 30 days. I felt insulted by that number. I'm sorry, it's never 30 days with everything done. So if it is 30 days in Abuja, somebody needs to come to Delta to teach them how to do the 30 days, because we prepare. I didn't want NAFDAC to come up and say, oh, you are not ready. IPAN has made us ready. But at the state level, it doesn't pan out as easily. Sometimes you have to come to Abuja to fast track at state level. It's sort of not good in preparation for going. I don't want to take over the whole floor. I'm speaking because we've started and we've done 4 tests of export. All of it went into the American market. So we met the standards. We did dry fish, periwinkles, some of those products. We need a harmonization as a matter of urgency, and we need someone to tell Son. If Son, we knew them for fashion and furniture, we didn't know them for food and drugs, but they are taking for food and drugs. So if this is the case, change it. If this is not the case, please come. correct them. Thank you very much.
First observation, or in terms of clarification, that has to do with SON and NAFDAC. Every organization has an act that established them. NAFDAC, like I said, is mandated to regulate and control importation, exportation, manufacture, distribution, sales, and advertisement of what we call regulated products. What are these regulated products? I mentioned it during the course of my presentation. When you look at all these regulated products, food, drug, cosmetics, medical devices, detergents, chemicals, and drinks, including packaged water. There are about 7 in number. Looking at those regulated products, it doesn't involve furniture, it doesn't involve steel, it doesn't involve woven sheets or whatever. We have focused on these regulated products. But the acts that gave some to do conformity assessment, I wouldn't like to go into detail of that. I think at the executive level, at the federal level, that could be sorted out. But I want to tell you that every organization, every government parastatal work in line with what established them. Then the issue of payment of food with NAC-AfCFTA, Nigeria Agricultural Quarantine Service, probably when you pay to NAFDAC, we can remit. Yes, it's a very good thing. I like that idea. But the issue of single window will sort out that by the time single window enable, like I said. Because single window, you don't need any other person. You can just go there, make your payments. If your product has to do with regulated product that has to do with NAFDAC, you make payment to NAFDAC. If there is anything that has to do with Nigeria Agricultural Quarantine Service, it goes to them. It will eliminate all these barriers that clients are facing in getting their products registered. And the issue of single window was actually mentioned by the Nigerian Customs Service. We, in the Trade Facilitation Committee meeting, we have mentioned it. I think it's what they are working on. So it's not the core mandate of my organization. I wouldn't like to go into detail of it as well. But it's a very good thing that by the time it's enabled, it will give room and it will ease the ease of doing business for all clients. So, and again, apart from that, there's another one called National Trade Portal. I know because even coming week now, the Ministry of Trade and Investment will be visiting our office at Seme-Boda. They want to see how they can harmonize all these payments together. But all those ones are still section of what single window will offer us. It's only single window that will give us the room, all agency, to harmonize the processing, and everything will be done in one place. So I think it's a very good thing. I commend you for bringing that idea. Now, your question two, on the issue of IPAN. IPAN is Institute of Public Analysts of Nigeria. Yes, like I said, the Act does not mandate IPAN to regulate and control. Part of the requirement that NAFDAC require if you are registering your products, there are key certificates that you need to submit. The first one is the CAC because you need to register your company. The second one is the from trade, that is your trade name. The essence of all these certificates is to ensure that no other company, like this is Swan Water, you've been seeing other water in the market, but you will not see Swan Water again. That is the essence of that. Then the issue of IPAN coming in, because clients will be like, I'm very sure of my products. We want you to get your products tested by IPAN because we have them all around. The result they give you, you attach it to what the document that you are submitting to NAFDAC. But the mandate and the heart does not give IPAN to regulate and control. I think all this has to border on the executive if there is going to be any harmonization at all. But every other organization works in line with what they were supposed to do. Let me stop there so that I'll wait for other questions.
I think we can empower by the law as in other clients, certified competent firms within their client to do it. In every local government they can go there. I do not think you can go to every local government. In my state, some local government are about almost 200 kilometers from the state capital. So they need to come. Maybe they go to your regional office in Port Harcourt to get it done. How will SME benefit from AfCFTA if we keep doing things this way?
My name is Mr. Wechi Alozie, representing the Director General of Nigeria Agricultural Planting Service. It's attending to the question, madam, from data asked concerning maybe double inspection and so. Then because when they do inspection, they charge money. And maybe now that had done one inspection, you see quarantine coming to do the same inspection. It is not proper. Yes, and again, it's the same government. But ours is mostly on companies that are interested in exporting their products. Yes, maybe NAFTA would have done that inspection. If our own inspectors goes there, what they're supposed to ask is, I want to do inspection. Maybe if they say NAFTA have done that, then they need to ask for the records. They do what is called auditing and verification of that records. If it is correct, there is no need doing another inspection. That is how it's supposed to be done. Our own is enforcement compliance of processes that is involved in making sure that the product meets the standard. And again, sometimes different countries they have their own different requirements. What China needs is not what America needs, the way they want the products to be. So if you're exporting to America, our own advice is to tell you this is what America needs. You're exporting to China, this is what China needs. So we'll do that. And for you to get that, you apply to us that you want to export. So we'll now advise you on that. That is for inspection. In short, recently we had a meeting with NAFDAC. If they do that type of inspection, if we know, they should let us know. If we also do it before them, we should let them know. Then the custom must also say something on their HS code. Yes, any mine is only agricultural products, especially agricultural products that can carry pests and diseases. If it is fully processed, canned, that means it's no more under our own jurisdiction. But if it is semi-processed, raw, something like that, I know you can pick garri and chew, but it can carry pests. So it's still under quarantine. I don't know if then the double taxation has been a problem. Let me give you another example. But because Nigerian Agricultural Planting Service fully came into existence 2018 when the present head of state signed the bill. But before then, it has been existing in Federal Ministry of Agriculture. It's only the plant quarantine that we are still under Federal Ministry of Agriculture, but fully autonomous in their job then. That is why up to today, you cannot, when you mention IPPC, that is a commission that regulates phytosanitary activities of a plant product. We have the animal quarantine, we have the fisheries quarantine. I am of the fisheries department. Before the creation of Agricultural Quarantine Service, we were in the Department of Fisheries. Up to today, fisheries is given what they call fishing license. License is supposed to be to license a vessel to move, just like a vehicle. When you license trawler, but license is not the one that will give you permission to bring in a product. So we issue what is called either import permit or export permit, and for you to get such permit, you must meet the requirements of maybe the importing country, or if it is going out, you make sure that you meet what is required before you can send that product out. The thing is that fisheries, maybe when they collect money to give their license, let's say they collect 100,000. While I was there, I was part of the work. The 100,000, for me and now as a quarantine person, under quarantine, telling somebody because you want to export product that had been aquaculture is under fisheries to supervise. But when the product will go out, we need to come in. We're supposed to be working together. The level they reach there's a level they will stop. Then the other agency continue. We'll work with the NAFDAC and other MDAs. Thank you.
Sorry, can I? No. Because there's always a cross. These agencies, NAFDAC is always crossing into one agency, the other agency is crossing into NAFDAC, and crisscrossing causes all these infractions. The minister can say that the person in the local government, the MSMEs, how do they draw from the richness of this seminar, of this workshop? If these things are not translated to them, the local man producing does not know whether this is a HS code 10 or HS code that, or is it a NAFDAC regulated product or foreign SPS product. AfCFTA should please do us a favor on breaking these things down and regulate and limit every agency to what they should be doing so that the MSMEs will take advantage of what they're doing here. Thank you.
Let me just identify with our sister that brought this issue. The truth, everything you said is the truth. And I can tell you that the government of Nigeria knows that we have this problem. And they've taken some proactive actions. The new quality policy, one of the issues it will address is the issue of mandate overlap. It is there. Pick up the document and read. And it is going to curtail each of these agencies and clearly say this is where you start, this is where you stop. That is one thing that the policy will do for us. Secondly, another thing that the policy will do for us is issue of this double payment. It is not only unacceptable, it is also scientifically not proper and business-wise waste of money. But let me tell you the challenge we have uniquely in Nigeria, why it might be difficult for your lab result to be used by NAQS, NAFDAC, and SON. The issue is that the competence of the labs are not the same. Do you understand? Now, what the policy is asking every agency of government and private sector to do, if you have a laboratory by 2025, is that your labs must be accredited to perform business. Why is it important? Why is it important is that if you have done a test with NAFDAC because you wanted to ship something that NAQS have also hand in it, they will take NAFDAC result and work with it, because by then the labs are equivalent. They are accredited, NAFDAC is accredited, SON is accredited, then they can accept their result. There's no basis for asking you to go and do another payment, another test. That's another thing that we are hoping that policy implementation will solve for us. Again, the last speaker talked about, in export integration, what NAC can do for us. I also want to remind all of us that there is integrated export control plan that is being driven by NEPC and Ministry of Agric, I believe. So if that comes to full implementation, right now it's being tested for beans, or they're planning to test it for beans. But if implemented and is successful for beans, then it will be implemented for all export items or value chain. And what that will help us, because the way I've seen the integrated export plan work or plan is that everything is one stop. When you are dealing with NAFDAC, in the system they are seeing what you have done with the previous agency, so that you don't go around and around paying this person and paying this person. You have 1 point payment, every other person's certificate can be seen. If you have been approved by NAFDAC, it is there in the system. NAQS is there. There is traceability of the journey of the product before it gets to custom. And they will simply look at the journey and let it go. I think we need to accept that the government is doing something, they are proactive. Where we are going to be putting pressure on my brother and my friend is for them to begin to remind the government, yes, you have approved this, let's implement this policy. Let's conclude work on integrated export control plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Amongst all of the processes mentioned here, we've run out of time. we will just kindly invite all of the panelists to the front here to take a picture, and then we will close. But thank you so much. Let's give a good round of applause to all the actors here. They have done this of their own patriotism to the country, and I believe that some of the recommendations that have come through from the floor and from them, it's very important that we implement. Thank you so much.
Very thought-provoking session. If we could give our round of applause to our panelists.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning once again. Thank you for coming back today. I think we're running at least an hour and a half behind schedule. So I'll try and make this very quickly so we can go for lunch and move on to the business of creating strategy. But what I'm trying to do is to kind of set the scene for what we are going to do next. I like the comment from one of the gentlemen that mentioned that indeed what we are describing, NAFDAC was describing, is the way things are today, but not the way we want it to work. So please note that down. Note all the things that need to change, so that we can know which ones to prioritize in the implementation plan. The way I see this is that eventually, with the output of what we have here, certain items will go onto the agenda of the Governors Forum, and on a monthly basis, after would be discussed and we'll monitor our progress. I think very quickly, my topic is to give some insights on implementing public policy. I don't recognize what's saying on the board. Can you close what is not relevant, please? Okay. And the reason is when we talk about the challenges, it's something that is consistent is government should do this, government should do this, government should do this. The good news is that government is here. The government that will do anything that we want to be done is here. The 36 states, I think as at this point, I think we now have up to 25 states out of the 36 states here. So we have formed more than quorum. Now, that is one key point. The second key point, if you think about the presentations that we made yesterday, there are certain things that were on every presentation. Can anyone remember one? Funding. What else? Infrastructure. Quality control. And we all feel helpless, right? So how are we going to do this? Government has to do this. But the government is here, which is us. That means we need to figure out a way to do this. So, Kingsley is not here, Dr. Kingsley. So I want to share some thoughts. And if you go to the next slide, I'll share some videos as well. Some of the things, to change our thinking in terms of what needs to be done. Can you play this? This is a professor in University College London, and she's an expert in public policy, innovation in public sector space, and she has some interesting remarks on the role of government in terms of what we see today in various parts of the world and the government's role in that. Please play.
Have you ever asked yourselves why it is that companies, the really cool companies, the innovative ones, the creative, new economy type companies, Apple, Google, Facebook, are coming out of one particular country, the United States of America. Usually when I say this, someone says, Spotify, that's Europe, but yeah, it has not had the impact that these other companies have had. Now, what I do is I'm an economist, and I actually study the relationship between innovation and economic growth at the level of the company, the industry, and the nation. And I work with policymakers worldwide, especially in the European Commission, but recently also in interesting places like China. And I can tell you that that question is on the tip of all of their tongues. Where are the European Googles? What is the secret behind the Silicon Valley growth model, which they kind of, understand is different from this old economy growth model? And what is interesting is that often, even if we're in the 21st century, we kind of come down in the end to these ideas of sort of market versus state. It's talked about in these modern ways, but the idea is that somehow behind places like Silicon Valley, the secret have been different types of market-making mechanisms, the private initiative, whether this be about a dynamic venture capital sector that's actually able to provide that high-risk finance to these innovative companies, the gazelles as we often call them, which traditional banks are scared of, or different types of really successful commercialization policies which actually allow these companies to bring these great inventions, their products, to the market and actually get over this really scary death valley period in which many companies instead fail. But what really interests me, especially nowadays because of what's happening politically around the world, is the language that's used, the narrative, the discourse, the images, the actual words. So we often are presented, with the kind of words like that the private sector is also much more innovative because it's able to think out of the box. They are, more dynamic. Think of Steve Jobs' really inspirational speech to the 2005 graduating class at Stanford, where he said, to be innovative, you gotta stay hungry, stay foolish, right? So these guys are kind of the hungry and foolish and colorful guys, right? And then places like Europe, it might be more equitable, we might even be a bit better dressed and, eat better than, say, the US, but the problem is this damn public sector. It's a bit too big, and it hasn't actually allowed these things like dynamic venture capital and commercialization to actually be able to really be as fruitful as it could. And even really respectable newspapers, some that I'm actually subscribed to, the words they use are, the state as this leviathan, right? This monster with big tentacles. They're very explicit in these editorials. They say, the state, it's necessary, to fix these little market failures when you have public goods or different types of negative externalities like pollution. But you know what? What is the next big revolution going to be after the internet? We all hope it might be something green or, all this nanotech stuff. And in order for that stuff to happen, they say, this was a special issue on the next industrial revolution, they say the state, just stick to the basics, right? Fund the infrastructure, fund the schools, even fund the basic research, because this is popularly recognized, in fact, as a big public good, which private companies don't want to invest in. Do that, but you know what? Leave the rest to the revolutionaries. Those colorful, out-of-the-box kind of thinkers. They're often called garage tinkers because some of them actually did some things in garages, even though that's partly a myth. And so what I want to do with you in, only 10 minutes, is to really think again this juxtaposition. Because it actually has massive, massive implications beyond innovation policy, which just happens to be the area that I often talk with policymakers. It has huge implications even with this whole notion that we have on where, when, and why we should actually be cutting back on public spending. And different types of public services, which of course, as we know, are increasingly being outsourced because of this juxtaposition, right? I mean, the reason that we need to maybe have free schools or charter schools is in order to make them more innovative without being, burdened by this heavy hand of the state curriculum or something. So these kind of words are constantly, these juxtapositions come up everywhere, not just with innovation policy. And so to think again, I mean, there's no, reason that you should believe me, so just think of some of the smartest revolutionary things you have in your pockets, and do not turn it on, but you might want to take it out, your iPhone. Ask, who actually funded the really cool, revolutionary, thinking out of the box things in the iPhone?
Which is that everything the internet, where there's something that would have come. Even the internet, even the names of the things that you have, where a lot of them, where the research, the funding, all happen in government labs, were paid for by government, and private sector takes the glory. So when we start talking about where are we going to find the money, how are we going to grow the capacity of our people? We need to support our people. The Boeings, the Airbuses. Even today, we're talking about, if you talk about space, we have Elon Musk. Elon Musk won a contract with NASA. I think he got one of the billions of dollars of contract. What's the other guy's name? What is the Amazon guy? They are all moving into state. Why? Into space travel. Why? Because government is funding space travel. It's actually almost free money. But they make the money ultimate. When the financial crisis came, what happened? Government came and bailed out companies. But once they came back, the stock prices started going up and CEOs started taking glory. But without government coming in. Why am I saying this? Let me give you another example. Korea. Who has heard about the Chevroles, the Samsung, the Hyundai? We heard an ambassador talk about them yesterday, the garment factory, and all these people, actually they're moving them into doing great things. When the Korean government were actually positioning themselves to play in the digital space, in the communication space, they funded the research into their own technology. They did not use GSM. The CDMA, they started with CDMA. At that point, your phone cannot work in Korea until they are ready. I think they joined with the 3G. They joined the war with 3G. But at that point, most of what they did they deliberately incentivized local companies to produce at scale, produce locally, produce the capacity to be able to take on the world. That was what China did. That was what Korea did. That is what America still does. So the reason I'm starting with this is to kind of bring it to the attention that if you're now talking export, okay, let's talk about our rice. We know that Thailand gives, even in Nigeria here, when the rice millers, processors association, I remember when we met them, when they met the president, they were talking about the kind of incentives, even they supported the importers to the extent that you produce your rice in Kebbi and you buy it, but those that are buying Thailand rice, Indian rice, the importers give them credit facility. Come and carry, when you sell, give me money. But if you're buying Nigerian rice, you don't have that flexibility because the farmer needs his money, the seller needs his money. So even that small credit facility is enough for you to choose to buy Thailand rice over Nigerian rice. So as policymakers, pro and cons will never happen. But by taking out all the actions we've taken at the beginning of the year, visiting some states, learning from visiting them, because with each visit we learned and we fine-tuned. That is the nature of the problem that we're trying to solve. So we are here to develop a strategy, but there's something to take away.
International development requires solving lots of problems.
In case anyone is interested. But the reason I thought I'd bring this, especially now, is to set our mind towards the strategy that we are trying to develop. There is something that we are used to in terms of how things are done. Go to the next slide. We develop a concept note. Next slide, please. Yes. There's the plan and control process of delivering projects. We develop a plan, a big plan. We validate it, we agree it, we do budget around it, and then we lock it in, and then we start to implement, and then we evaluate and hope that it solves the problem. But we also know that there's a difference between output and the outcome. For instance, we're talking about building cluster facilities. If you build a plant, we plan and we say we want to employ 1 million people or 1,000 people, and we're going to build this plant in the middle of Abuja, and we build it. The output is a plant that is working, but the outcome we are targeting is employment or prosperity or standard of living or something. But we all know that sometimes we build that plant and we find out that there's no road to the plant. So although you've achieved the outcome you set out, you will not achieve the outcome because there are some gaps. And we see this all the time. So you have an input, maybe a study or whatever, and then you develop that concept note, and then you take action, and then you get that output, you measure the outcome. If you're lucky, you meet your outcome. If you're not lucky, you say government has failed again. There's the process, so the project process, this another, along the same plan and control process, the project process, the objectives achieved, but then the development, at the end of the day, about the development objective. Maybe we are targeting one or more of the SDG goals. But how does that road, how does that plant, how does that capacity development program achieve this? Or again, the same thing. We say we don't have money, so we may not even have money to build road, build plant, do capacity development, do the certification and all of that. But we need to start somewhere. So how do we go about this? Go to the next slide. So this is what we are used to, and it is very useful. It's very, very useful. But the important thing is to understand that what we are doing is complex. Understand that we do not even know what we are trying to solve. So that is why the very first step in this problem-driven iterative approach is focusing on the problem. What is my problem? What am I trying to solve? So, and the other thing that this is about as well is about telling you that at every level that you are, you can make something work. We just have a couple of minutes. I mean, this is a 6 weeks course at Harvard. But, no, is it 6 or 12? But at every point that you are, you can make a difference. Why? And maybe I'll send a case study on Singapore. We talk about how Singapore grew. We talk about one thing. We talk about one person. But actually, this case study said that there were a number of people, a number of actors in different areas, including people at World Bank, that know people. It just happened that somebody at World Bank knew a company that was looking for somewhere to establish a plant. and he was already working with the government of Singapore in building economic zones. And he said, why don't you establish in Singapore? And then a plant came in Singapore. Through other people, a meeting was arranged, and from one thing led to another and another, they agreed to build a plant. And of course, they built that first plant, and their suppliers came on, and other suppliers came on, and voila, you have the Singapore that we all quote today. So your contact, and we see it in LinkedIn, you have people you know first hand, people you know second hand, and through people that don't know you, they get in touch with you and say, I want to be friends with you. You check who, how, where do I know you from? But you check your mutual friends, and you check, are these people reliable? And they say, yes, I know this person. And then you select them, they become your friend. It is that same multi-agency type of approach. So, but coming back to this is about identifying the problem that we want to solve. Something that is manageable. And understanding that you need to take action. But you don't wait until you take the big action. You start with small actions. And when you take the action, then you evaluate. Check the differences. There will be differences. Will you fail? Yes. But you fail, understand, and make the adjustments and continue. That's what this is all about, and you keep moving until the problem is solved. So if you go to the next slide very quickly, I'll try to make it faster. There's another thing that this came out for me very strongly. There's what we call best practices, right? The best practice in Germany will not work in Nigeria. You can take that best practice, but you must localize it for it to work. So we need to be careful. We need to understand what we need to understand how they did it, how other people did it, but understand and apply it in the context of what we are looking for. There's something that they call positive deviance. So, which is really, there are a lot of latent solutions that we all have in our departments. Like we say, necessity is the mother of invention. There are a lot of things that are happening that we can take advantage of. The third thing, and which we found when the question, I have my senior brothers from Nasima. At the beginning of this journey, every day we were up pondering the question: are we ready? Is there anything that we are spotting? Journalists will badger my oga, and come to me, will talk. What are we exporting? And we did an analysis, and I showed you yesterday, there are several products that Nigerians are exporting in millions of dollars. So those people have been able to do something differently. So it is for us to understand what they've done and try to replicate it with the rest of the people. And there are if you will, there are case studies in health and so on that you find to say these are things that people are doing and that you can replicate. But again, this is us engaging with the stakeholders, people on the front line, to understand what they are doing so that we can then latch onto it. So the important thing is that we need to, as government entities, we need to reach out. We are catalysts, we are facilitators. And I've talked about you try, you don't know whether it will work, but you keep trying until it works. And scale through diffusion. So by bringing all of you here, what I'm trying to I'm doing you a favor, but I'm also doing myself a lot of favor. Because by bringing you here and talking AfCFTA, I'm making you ambassadors of AfCFTA. I'm giving you the knowledge so that you can talk AfCFTA, you can talk the language of export, you can answer one or two questions, you can meet people that will solve some of your problems. And when some of these things happen and we say our export of non-oil is growing, I will be taking my own glory. You'll be taking your own glory. But that is about diffusion. So when they tell me a lot of people at the grassroots don't know, I know. But even if you give me all the money in the world today, I will still not be in a position to give them that message of AfCFTA within the next 6 months. Because you need more than money to make that happen. So again, in solving the problems, is about understanding that you create the ripple and it grows. Go to the next slide. So what we are going to do is at the breakout session, go to the next slide. I will show this video, it takes a long time. What we are going to do is even start to understand what is the question, what is the problem that we are trying to solve within our states in terms of export, in terms of AfCFTA. What does the end state look like? Are we solving a jobs issue? Are we solving an export product issue? What exactly is the problem? What does it look like? And why does it matter? So you keep asking yourself this, why does it matter? Why is this important? And that question is important because for you to get the attention of our hierarchy in the public service, it needs to be interesting to them. We work for political masters, so for us to get something, get it on their radar, then it also needs to make sense to them. So who needs to care? Who needs to care more? I'm talking to you. This is my own trying to solve it as well. The states needs to care. They need to care more. And when it is solved, and that's what does success look like? When it is solved, what does this look like? For me, what it looks like is $1.2 billion of export in every state. But I can break it down. Just give me one state. Let's even start with $200 million. One state. And then let every state get to 100. Or some people moving at their own pace. But I can't show this, but maybe during the break we can show it. Constructing problems that matter. We need to tell it in a way that it will sell. If it is two same problems, and that's what this talks about, it's the same problem discussed in two different ways. People talk to people. Go to the next slide. So if it can appeal to the people and make them understand why this is important in a way that they will relate to, then you get the kind of authorization. And nobody says it's easy, it's very difficult. Another point to note here is that every single problem you have carry picking for back. So you need to be able to look at it and break it down. We're talking about export. So for instance, we talked about funding, we talked about capacity, we talked about X, Y. For the same problem, just give you an example. If you look at that funding, then even if you look at that funding, as the lady yesterday from BOI was talking about, BOI gave out $26 billion naira to SMEs in 2020. But people are still having problems accessing BOI. So there are issues and issues and issues, some of which you mentioned yesterday. So understanding them, breaking them down into sub-causes and sub-causes is part of what we will need to do so that we can get down to the root cause. This is like a way of representing the root cause. I'm not sure we'll do it now, but we'll provide you the template so that you can. If you go to the next slide, and when you finish, then there are certain things to check and say, out of all these things, how do I prioritize? So you prioritize. There are 3 things you check. Will you get the authority? Do you have the authority, or do you get the authority to engage? Will you get the acceptance? Do you have what it takes? Or can you borrow or get what it takes? Some of these things, if you look at those problems, for some of them, you have some of it. You have some acceptance, you have authority, and you have what it takes. So it's easier to work on this compared to where you don't have one of those. It's like pulling teeth. When you start where you can, and that is a big win, right? And then we can continue to move. So it's just about prioritizing. Go to the next slide. So this is not very clear, but this is iteration, and this is saying that what is important is actually identifying when you understand the root causes of the problems, and identify things that you can do within the next 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you keep taking action continuously and solving them, small steps, but keeping at it. These are things that even as simple as inviting. You know how we do committees. You start with maybe 2 or 3 people that you know, and when you have your first meeting, they tell you to co-opt other people because they'll be valuable. That in itself is a gain, and those people that are valuable will start using their contacts and start getting the information, gathering reports, doing studies, and gradually moving it forward until we get to the solution. This is really what this whole thing is all about, taking action. So I'm ending with this slide. This is what we had identified at the national level in terms of the very high level goals. What are we solving for? But each box here is a problem in itself. I'm not saying adopt this. All I'm saying is that even for us working with MDAs, we will be working with them to actually break these things down into problems, identifying what we're going to do. But at this moment is time for lunch, and when after lunch we'll continue with the breakout session. In the breakout session we'll start to think about, for us, for our state, what should we be solving for? You've heard everything that the governors mentioned, all the conversations. What should we be solving for after? Thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Before we go, permit me to invite the Director General of NACIMA and the Vice President, National Vice President of NACIMA. So do you want to come as well? Okay. Just to say a few words. They are part of the National Action Committee on AfCFTA.
Thank you very much, my dear brother Francis. I call him Francis because my dear brother, truly speaking, and let me stand on there. All protocols have been established. It's nice to be here, and I bring greetings from the National President of NACIMA, Ide Ude Agbala, who and his team are currently in Dubai for the World Chambers of Commerce meeting. I also want to thank Engineer Jani Ibrahim, the second Deputy National President of NACIMA. He is the one who should have even taken the mic. He's also the chair of the NACIMA AfCFTA committee. Most, of course, be the person to speak, but he's delegated this to me. He said I should please make a few remarks, and I want to say it's a pleasure to be here. I'm indeed very glad that we're all here. And for me, I think with this Subnational Strategy Workshop, we can now say, we just started now in terms of talking to the people who will do the job, the people who will do it. It is key and very important. If you just 2-3 minutes, I will speak. because I'll come with practical example of what is happening at the state level for you as well. Nasima has been involved in the dialogue as far as this is concerned, and like Francis said, we've been together on this journey since we signed that agreement, which was a little bit abstract at the beginning, but we are part and parcel of it, and Nasima has also been on it. I, in my own career, have a background in the Nigerian Foreign Service. I spent 35 years in the Foreign Service, and I ended up as High Commissioner to Australia. And in the course of that service, I also served in some of our missions in Nairobi, Kenya, and other places, in Vienna, as well as Tel Aviv. I've seen the potentials of Nigeria in terms of what we can provide to the world. And I get that questions every time while I was in the Foreign Service, before I also, of course, eventually. And a lot of discussions in these particular areas, you cannot escape it as Nigeria. Let us just accept that. It just devolved on you. Like I said, I've been in the multilateral for group. Naturally, that is what happens to you as a Nigerian, and that is what will happen to us as Nigerian. But now, talking about the AfCFTA, let me make 2 points. One, the AfCFTA is not a 100-meter dash. Let us understand that. It is not a 100-meter dash. It's a long-distance race. Some people will take advantage of it at the beginning. Somewhere they get tired at the end of the day. Other countries will hop on board. In terms of your own perspective and your competitive area, and can Nigeria compete? Yes. Now, in the area of banking and financial sector, the Nigerian banks dominate Africa. Especially, I served in Nairobi for 4 years, 2003, 2007. There was no Nigerian bank. Today, the Nigerian banks are. So that is an indication that yes, we can. Then secondly, if you also look at West Africa too as well, if you look at the creativity sector, I mean, if you talk about creativity sector, you talk about your young musician, you talk about Davido, you talk about Burna Boy, you talk about even musical production. That is also an indication. But what I'm saying is that yes, we can. But for me now, practical and concretizing the abstraction is the challenge. And that's why I'm indeed very glad everybody from me. Your state has something to offer. Let me end with this story. Who is from Enugu here? Do you have a representative from Enugu State here? Yes. Are you aware of the Nsukka Yellow Pepper program? Thank you very much. The Nsukka Yellow Pepper program is being coordinated by the Nsukka Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture. And what are they doing? They brought together close to about 500 farmers into a cooperative. And they've helped to package them, produce the Nsukka Yellow Pepper, and package in such an internationally accepted program. They are targeting the US and European market. So when the AfCFTA came, we in Nasima said, Nsukka Yellow Pepper, this is your yellow pepper. Why don't you also start preparing? So the Nsukka Yellow Pepper is being prepared by the Nsukka Chambers of Commerce, 500 farmers. So this is a concrete example of how subnational strategy can be adopted by your respective state. All of you have something. Finally, some of us are wearing some ethnic fabrics. I can see my sister here who is wearing an ethnic fabric. Ogun State. Who is from Ogun State here? Thank you. I was invited to Ogun State for the launch of the authentic Ogun dress. Authentic Ogun dress. Implicitly, it is possible for Ogun State to help those women who are in Abeokuta where they sell all those dresses to take advantage of the textile issues production as far as the subnational strategy is concerned. I thought I can go on and on and on and on again. What I'm saying is that your respective states, where you come from, please, when you get back home, they've given us the theory, which my brother, myself, and please go and look inward where you can. I'm very fond of Kogi State. Kogi State here, iron ore, Agbaja iron ore deposit. I was involved as High Commissioner in Australia in terms of development of the Agbaja iron ore industry. So the mining sector, as far as the chain is concerned, where are the Kogi State representatives? Gogi is not here. Please help us send them a letter or a telephone and tell them that this workshop has challenged them in terms of the potentials of the AfCFTA and the mining potentials in their place. And they should wake up to it. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I indeed very glad to be given this opportunity. Engineer Johnny, I don't know if you want to say anything, but apart from that, thank you. Francis, we're there in Nasima to concretize the abstractions, all those fine theory. And now is the time to now give it real meaning for the life of our people and also other things like that. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much for that presentation. And again, I said earlier, we should begin to look inwards. So now we're going to move on to lunch.
Deliberations around the beneficial implementation of AfCFTA agreement continues. The National Action Committee on AfCFTA, in collaboration with the Nigeria Progress Forum, has set up a 3-day subnational strategy workshop to bring together states and federations to deliberate on their strategy for the implementation of the AfCFTA agreement. I have with me delegates from the 6 geopolitical regions in Nigeria who will speak on their experience during the workshop, what they hope to achieve with AfCFTA, and how their states go forward to implement the agreement.
How would you describe the experience gained from this workshop?
Well, I think this is a very good workshop because Africa has been lagging behind. We have too many products and services that are lying down within Africa, and if there's a way, we would open up the market to have inter-regional trade between the countries in Africa. It will also, open doors for us to reach other parts of the world. So this is a very good workshop, and particularly as it tries to identify what are those products and services states have, what are the key challenges they are facing in terms of, trying to fine-tune their products, trying to, improve the product and services for exportation. So I think this is a very good workshop. It lays a very good foundation for states, particularly, to bring out all those produce we have within the state, for exportation.
So going forward, what are your expectations with regards to the implementation of the AfCFTA?
Well, I would expect, going forward from what we've done today, or this week, for the agreement to be put in place, let it be formalized, and then states are being informed as to what has been done, so that, the actions will start. States will start bringing out the products, and then, we hit the export market within within Africa and other parts of the world.
So, upon returning back to your state, what product or service do you feel with a competitive advantage in your state would you want to drive in alignment with the AfCFTA?
We have so many in Kaduna State, to be honest. Particularly if you look at ginger, is quite. There's nowhere in Nigeria that the quality of ginger being produced is as good as that of Kaduna State. And if you look at the ginger market around the world, we have India, we have China as two major, users of ginger. The Middle East is a huge market for ginger as well. So I think if we concentrate on ginger in Kaduna State and then we complement with tomatoes and then we can, dominate, for quite a few markets around the world with ginger. Thank you very much.
How would you describe the experience you gained from this workshop?
Well, the experience has been very, very rewarding. The workshop has been an eye-opener. We've always known the importance of trade and commerce. But just bringing it down to the states level and ensuring that the states know exactly what to do to grow exports out of Nigeria and into other parts of Africa has created a big opportunity and made us very, very aware in terms of all those things that we need to do. So it's been quite rewarding, I would say.
So, what are your expectations going forward with respect to the implementation of the AfCFTA?
Expectations. There are quite a number of things that we have to put together as a state. There are various products, there are various services that each state is unique to. And those are some of the things that we have to go back, sit around the table, and come up with what we believe the demand is out there in Africa and things that we can also, we can actually provide. On the other hand, also part of my expectations personally is that as we are doing that as a state, we also want to make sure that at the federal level that Nigeria is ready for us. One thing is telling the states to prepare goods and services for export. Another thing also is ensuring that certain barriers to trade are taken care of at the federal level. Things like tariffs, quotas, port decongestion, bureaucracy, and corruption at the ports. Because one of the things that we've realized from my own state, Anambra, where we've also started exporting vegetables and some other products, when we get to the ports, we hit a big bottleneck and obstacles. And so part of my expectation is that those things, get taken care of so that as we come from the States, it makes it easier for us to export to the continent.
So on your return to your state, what product or service that you feel you have some sort of competitive advantage that you want to drive to ensure that it aligns with the AfCFTA?
Yeah, well, in Anambra State, currently we have a very robust agricultural export program. Like I mentioned earlier on, we've had some bottlenecks, but those are, agricultural exports, vegetables, and other products are things that we are willing to drive in the short term. We have auto manufacturers, Inosin, Oma Motors, and so on, who have started exporting. We just have to work with them, to track the exports because it's all coming out of the state directly on the medium term. Longer term, there are other things and big ideas that we have which are currently encapsulated in our Anambra Vision 2070, which will be launched early next year. And so, there are programs there are items and products there that we also want to develop for exports in the longer term. So that will have to wait until the document is made public.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great opportunity for us to mingle with other states, especially the southwestern states, to learn across the country what other people are doing and how they intend to implement the free trade agreement. It's been very, very good.
So,
I'm hopeful that the National Committee would still hold our
Well, I must confess that this workshop was really an eye-opener in terms of the insights that it gave us with respect to the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. And I think we have a lot of experience on what is expected of us, and going forward, what we should take back as takeaways from this event.
So what are your expectations in relation to the implementation of the AfCFTA agreement?
Well, concerning Borno State, where I came from, we have a governor that is up and doing. Number one, he is always interested in making sure that the state is back on track, especially due to this insurgency, which is now winning down. And secondly, the support that we have now, especially with respect to the opening up of the border markets, where already we have a border-free market at Banki for exports of various other commodities. I think that will help a lot in ensuring that we get where we want to get with the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. But like I said, it's not going to be a one-off thing, it's a continuous thing. Like we said, it's a work in progress. There are so many issues relating to the implementation which have not been spelled out clearly, but which I think the workshop here is trying to guide us on.
So going back to the state, what product or service do you feel with a competitive advantage do you want to align with the AfCFTA agenda?
Well, first and foremost, I think we made it clear to even the Northern Governors Forum and the Northeast Development Commission that Borno is home for gum arabic. We specialize in the processing, farming and processing of gum arabic and the export of same products to neighboring countries. They bring in gum arabic all the way from Sudan and Chad to Maiduguri, where it is weighed, polished and sold. So we have competitive advantage in respect to the market for selling of the gum arabic. And that was the product we presented as our key product for export, where we hope to earn a lot of foreign exchange. So gum arabic is it. Then we have sesame seed, which is the second product we are considering.
Thank you very much.
You are most welcome. Thank you.
Can you describe the experience gained from this workshop?
I mean, it's been quite enlightening. I first heard about this AfCFTA, honestly, sometime last year. And I heard, oh, it's been launched January 1st, and Ghana has already taken, by February, Ghana has already taken advantage. And so by April, we met with the National Action Committee, and they sort of introduced us to it. I mean, obviously, I did have some concerns and challenges, but I was actually quite excited because I'm the DG in my state, Niger State Commodity and Export Promotion Agency, and our entrepreneurs have had real issues meeting the standards of the European and American markets, honestly, and it's been quite disheartening for the state, for some of the SMEs. So the idea that we can access regional markets, maybe technical barriers to trade a bit lower, really, and the standards. I mean, it's not like we want to provide substandards, but it's like an easier entry into an international market with having to jump through so many hoops, fear of rejection, very expensive certifications. So I'm just quite excited, and I'm quite excited, and this guy said something yesterday, the guy from PwC. He said he's excited to be here because he's witnessing history, and honestly that resonated with him. I mean, it's not like an easy operating terrain, but I'm also sort of glad to be sort of experiencing this history within Africa. For the implementation, I feel all hands need to be on deck. Because there are so many agencies doing similar things. It's kind of complicated. Language is complicated. So I mean, something that came out in our breakout session, it has to be made easier and distilled into a very, very easy set of instructions for these SMEs to sort of take advantage of. So that's what I want to see. As far as we're at the top level coming up with these policies and implementation plans, let's also sort of think of the people who are going to implement and sort of see how we can sort of make it easier for them. Because even in my state, what I'm trying to do is just trying to simplify everything. So if an exporter comes to us, I want to be able to tell them, okay, this is the buyer, these are the standards, these are the logistics plan, this is what you need to. I want to make it very, very easy for them, and I want the same for this AfCFTA plan for the SMEs.
So going back to your state, is there a product or service that you feel is a competitive advantage that you'd like to align the AfCFTA?
I mean, for Niger State, it's very obviously share knots. Like Nigeria alone has 54% really of all the share resources in West Africa. Now, share is only commercially available in 8 West African countries, and Nigeria alone has over 50%. And Niger State in Nigeria has over 50% of that. So all in all, we have 36% of the share resource in West Africa. But because we haven't honestly invested enough in the infrastructure and industrializing our share sector, all our raw materials are being moved across West Africa, mostly to Ghana, because they've invested in processing capacity. We just have the raw materials, they have the processing capacity. So rules of origin, the nuts might be from Nigeria, but the process to butter is from Ghana. And we're losing our revenue. I think we say by 2025 it'll be a $3 billion industry, but we don't have, it doesn't really show in the state. Because when you drive through some local governments in Nigeria, all you see, as far as I can see, is share trees. But there's no processing infrastructure on ground. It's confusing to me. So that's, for us, we're just putting all our resources now into developing this sector. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, so thank you.
We will turn between, making sure that you got all the information that we have, but also respecting your time. So I apologize for the inconveniences that we may have caused some people in terms of your planning and all of that. Thank you for staying the course regardless. But I hope this has been a very good use of your time so far. I mean, you are all very senior government officials. We cannot ask for more. And we are grateful, we're very, very grateful and quite encouraged by the support we received from the Nigerian Governors Forum, the support we received from your governors. Yes, we had the pleasure of hosting 2 governors, but we have also been speaking to some other governors. Even while we were in South Africa last week, I met a couple of the governors. They were quite supportive. Some of that support came from your presentations to them. So I would also say thank you. I think I hope we've also been able to establish the fact that what we're dealing with is a complex problem. It won't go away. And there's a lot already happening. The important thing is to stay the course. I'll say at this point, thank you very much for staying till now, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.